Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's start today's video with a perfect example of petty revenge done right. Imagine moving into a new house only to become the unpaid mailroom for the previous owners who can't figure out how addresses work. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. They kept shipping things to my house. I'm not gonna lie, I love being petty. Not unprovoked, not out of nowhere, but when someone really earns it, oh, I'll serve it up fresh, hot, and neatly packaged. And this situation absolutely deserved it. A couple of years ago, I bought my last house. Great place, nice neighborhood, zero issues, except for one incredibly stupid, avoidable problem. The former owners could not, for the life of them, figure out how to forward their damn mail or stop shipping things to my address. And I'm not talking about one or two stragglers, it kept happening over and over. At first, I tried to be patient. I assumed it was a fluke. Packages from random websites would show up. Not one main retailer, not one subscription, just total chaos ordering. We'd get a box on the porch, realize it wasn't ours, and then have to notify them through a mutual neighbor who still kept in touch with them. They had moved literally right around the corner, so usually one of the kids would come trotting over within the hour to collect whatever their parents had misaddressed. Fine. Annoying, but livable. Except it didn't stop. It kept happening, like 6 separate times. 6. By the 6th package, I was done being polite. That time, the mother of one of the previous owners came to pick it up. I handed it to her, but I also very calmly and very directly told her how disrespectful it was that we had to keep accommodating them because they wouldn't take responsibility for their mail. I told her politely but firmly that I wasn't doing this anymore. She looked absolutely taken aback, like the concept of consequences was brand new information. But honestly, I didn't care. And of course, because people like this never learn just by being told, it happened again. This time, though, I kept my promise. No hesitation, package hits my porch, I march it right inside, pick up my phone, and schedule a FedEx call pickup immediately. Since it was FedEx, they came within the hour. Perfect. Clean, efficient, beautifully petty. A few hours later, I get a knock on my door. The husband standing there holding a bottle of wine like an offering at the gates of Mount Petty. He tells me he's there to pick up the package. He's apologizing profusely, going on about how it happened again, how he's sorry, how he appreciates our patience. I stop him and say, "Oh, don't apologize. I already had it returned via call pickup." The expression that washed over his face? Priceless. A mix of shock, horror, and the dawning realization that I wasn't bluffing. He froze for a moment, blinked, and then apologized again, probably 3 more times, and practically begged me to keep the wine. It never happened again. You gave them 6 chances, 6, and they still couldn't manage to update an address or click a forwarding link? At some point, that's not forgetfulness anymore. That's treating your house like their backup Amazon locker. The polite warning was already generous, but the real masterpiece was the FedEx call pickup. Because you didn't slam a door or start a fight, you let the system handle the consequences for you. And our second story. The day 20 strangers threw a party in my backyard. Back in 2015, I bought my first home, one of those brand new builds where every house looks like it came straight out of a polished neighborhood ad. Clean driveways, tidy lawns, backyard pools, the whole suburban starter pack. I lived alone, settled in fast, and kept mostly to myself except for casual conversations with people I'd meet on walks. A few streets over, the houses were older, and the area had more foot traffic, but I often walked through the park there after work to unwind. That's where I first met Kate, who lived on the edge of that park. She was friendly, smart, and honestly just easy to be around. On hot days, she'd ask, always politely, if she could come over to use my pool, and she'd show up with snacks, drinks, or something to share. She respected my space, never overstayed, and was the exact type of neighbor anyone would love to have. We never had a single issue. Then came Kayla, a woman a little younger than me who hung around the same park. She came from a huge, chaotic family with kids, teens, cousins, older siblings, and extended relatives constantly orbiting her. Kate warned me early on that Kayla had a habit of pushing boundaries, showing up unannounced, treating people's houses like community spaces, and bringing her family along without permission. But Kayla seemed friendly enough in passing conversation, so I didn't judge her too harshly. One blistering summer afternoon, I invited Kate over for a pool day. We had music playing, drinks on the table, and we were enjoying the sun when the side gate suddenly rattled. Before I could even stand up, Kayla walked in, followed by 5 of her family members. 2 young kids ran straight for the pool. A teenage boy barged past me without a word. Another adult woman and a cousin followed like it was a public facility. They didn't knock, didn't ask, didn't even acknowledge me. They just launched themselves into the water, fully clothed, splashing like they owned the place. After the initial shock wore off, I stepped closer and said, "Hold on, what's going on? Who said all of you could come in?" Kayla casually floated on her back and shrugged, saying, "You said I could swim anytime." The implication being I apparently agreed to host a family reunion? Absolutely not. I made it very clear that while she could visit occasionally, that didn't mean her entire extended family was automatically invited. The teenager looked like he wanted to argue, but I shut it down. One by one, they climbed out, glaring at me like I was the rude one. Kayla left angry and dramatic. A few days later, Kate told me that Kayla had been telling anyone who'd listen that I was stuck up, selfish, and only pretend nice. Typical projection, so I ignored it. If the worst thing someone can say about me is that I don't allow 10 strangers to overrun my backyard, I'll sleep fine at night. Then came the real disaster. A week later, I came home from a day out and heard loud music before I even reached my front door. Yelling, splashing, laughing, chaos. I went around the side of my house, and the side gate was wide open. When I stepped into the yard, I froze. Kayla and her entire extended family, about 20 people, were in my pool, fully dressed, eating food on my patio furniture, blasting music, drinking, letting kids run wild, and leaving trash everywhere. Someone had set up balloons for a birthday. It wasn't just a gathering, it was a full-blown party. I raised my voice and demanded to know what the hell was happening. Kayla's mother stormed toward me, furious, shouting that they were celebrating a birthday and that Kayla said it was fine. She insisted that because I had once welcomed Kayla over, it somehow meant my home was open to all of them anytime. She yelled insults, accused me of being elitist, rude, unfriendly, everything she could think of. None of it changed the fact that 20 uninvited people were trespassing in my backyard. I pointed toward the gate and said, slowly and loudly, that if they weren't gone in 1 minute, I was calling the police. That finally worked. They gathered their things, still shouting insults as they left, and my yard looked like a hurricane had passed through. Trash, spilled food, wet footprints, and half-eaten snacks everywhere. Kayla never spoke to me again, which was honestly a blessing. Her younger siblings would glare or throw small rocks if Kate and I walked through the park, but beyond that, the silence was peaceful. I realized something important. Once someone twists, "You can visit occasionally," into "I own your backyard now," the relationship is already over. And I've never left my side gate unlocked again. Kayla's proof that some people treat other people's property like a free upgrade to their own lifestyle. You were kind, respectful, and clear. And she decided that meant she had keys to the kingdom. And our next story. Revenge is a dish best served in black lipstick and Doc Martens. I was a pharmacist at a Safeway in Arizona, and my boss was a textbook malignant narcissist, total control freak. I actually liked talking to customers and answering their questions, which she hated because it was something she couldn't control. She obsessed over the smallest things, like making sure we put plastic covers over the computer keyboards every night before closing. Pharmacist positions in that town were scarce, and I couldn't afford to quit, so I just kept my head down and followed her ridiculous rules. Whenever the regional manager came to town, she'd vanish for hours to go to lunch and gossip with them, which honestly was the best part of the day. She constantly hovered over me, desperate to find something to criticize. One morning I walked in and she looked me up and down before announcing in front of everyone that my pants weren't black enough. Then she actually wrote me up for it. That was the moment I decided to have a little fun. After work, I went out and bought a couple pairs of jet black Dickies, 3 sizes too big, and a chain belt from Hot Topic. I added some Goth jewelry covered in skulls and picked up a pair of Doc Martens. With the help of a teenage neighbor, I figured out the makeup, smoky eyes, black lipstick, the whole look. Next shift, I showed up as a full-blown goth girl in my mid-40s. She just stood there, absolutely speechless. And there wasn't a damn thing she could do about it. The dress code said black pants and white coat, and technically I was following it to the letter. A few days later, the regional manager came back to town. She and my boss disappeared for one of their long lunches again, probably trying to come up with a way to write me up, but there wasn't one. Then karma struck. A secret shopper came through the pharmacy while I was working. I helped him find new over-the-counter items and cracked a few jokes while explaining how to take Metamucil powder without choking on it. The guy laughed, thanked me, and left. A week later, I got a Smile Award from corporate for excellent customer service, a certificate, a free donut, and a cup of coffee. My boss, she got sent to Smile School for her perpetually sour attitude. I still think about that every time I see a pair of Doc Martens. The Goth makeover might be one of the most wholesome acts of workplace rebellion I've ever heard. Somewhere that regional manager probably still tells the story of the pharmacist who turned Safeway into a Sisters of Mercy concert and still outsmiled everyone in the building. And our last story. Her peeping Tom habit meant my right to privacy in my own home. So many moons ago, I moved into an apartment, second floor. At the time, I was about 21. And I'm a guy. Nice place and decent part of town. Not long after I moved in, I noticed one of my second floor neighbors kept trying to look into my living room, through, around, any way possible past my curtains. I need to tell the layout of the apartment before I go any further. From front to back, I had a sunroom, fully inside the house, but windows everywhere in this room that gets a lot of light and faces the street and neighbors across the street, church and church parking lot where we all park for street cleaning. Past the sunroom was the living room, from there into the kitchen, then to the hallway, which leads to the bathroom and both bedrooms, master bedroom being the last room in the back that also leads to a porch for our apartment. So back to the story. I would always be nice to anyone and would chat here and there with most of the neighbor ladies, which were all nice, all except for one. She thought she was the queen of the street and had to know what everyone was doing at any time. She'd constantly try and look through my windows to see what was going on in my apartment. She was about 65 years old or so. I would always see her craning her neck and head around to see into my apartment. I'd try to ask her to stop, but she would never answer her door. Finally, after about 6 months of this, I decided to give her something to look at. So one morning, I got a shower, put on a robe, and went out to the sunroom. I always had the curtains closed at night, and if I was undressed, I looked around the street and everywhere I could see to make sure no one was out and looking, but mainly wanted to make sure she was trying to look into my house. There she was, craning her neck, trying to look through my closed curtains, me still having my robe around me. Opened the curtains, saw her again, trying to look into my apartment, opened my robe in full view in the middle of that window. I thought she had a heart attack since her face contorted and she grabbed her chest, LOL. Of course, her being a Karen, called the cops to try to get me arrested. Well, the cops show up at her place, then come over to mine. I'd gotten dressed by this time, so went downstairs to open the door and talk to them since I already knew what it was about. Cop 1. Yeah, we got a report of you standing naked in front of your window. Me. Yeah, want to know why? I'll tell you. Ever since I moved into my apartment, that old hag's been damn near breaking her neck to try and look into my apartment every day. Me and my roommate have tried to ask her to stop, but she never answers her door. I finally got tired of her being a peeping Tom and gave her something to look at. And before you say anything, no one else was around when I did it. It's not my fault her 65-year-old butt can't handle seeing what I have. Cop 1 and 2 laughing their butts off. Cop 1 trying to catch his breath. Okay, I'll go talk to her and tell her that she can actually be arrested for peeping and making a false report. Do you want to press charges? Me. Nah, I think she learned her lesson. But if she didn't, she'll get it again. But next time, it'll be a little more than she's going to bargain for. Cop 1 and 2 laugh again. Just make sure no one's around if you have to do that again. They left, walked across the street, and about 10 minutes later, they left still laughing. She never tried to look into my house again. You delivered a clear message in a single frame, and apparently it was educational enough that she retired from peeping entirely. That's some impressive boundary setting. Well done, OP. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.